America hypothetically, there it is. What happens next based on current information? Iran and the US agreed to a 2-week ceasefire in which Israel is also included. Iran agreed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz during these 2 weeks. In turn, America has agreed to begin negotiations in Islamabad on Friday based on Iran's 10-point plan. Iran's 10-point plan. The acceptance of Iran's 10-point plan, which contains the lifting of sanctions, guarantees of non-aggression, acceptance of nuclear enrichment, formal Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz and other things, is a precondition for the establishment of a permanent ceasefire. If America does not abide by the 10-point plan, it is likely the war will continue after 2 weeks. And Iran is attacking the UAE as we're speaking.
Yeah.
Why is Iran attacking the UAE, Malcolm?
Okay. Well, because despite the fact that the foreign or the Speaker of the House of Iran saying that this agreement has been done, that's diplomacy. Iran, don't forget, has 31 independent combat commands as part of their Iranian IRGC-wide Mosaic command strategy, in which those officers are getting messages that have been passed down earlier in today, or according to a strike book that's been distributed months and months and months ago. The attacks will taper off so long as they can get verification that Mujtaba al-Khamenei himself is ordering this and that this isn't some sort of underhand double dealing by civilians. And so I think by morning, these attacks will be over with. And, the ones that went off 1 minute and 38 seconds after this was announced, Israel started getting ballistic missiles impacting in there. So sort of like the end of World War I, you're going to still have a few rounds fired afterwards. The question is, how long will this last? And is it actually enduring? If it's based on the Iranian 10-point peace plan, if they can get most of these items on there, they're not particularly, well, they're sort of maximalist, right? Like Iran is now going to charge the IRGC multipass fee, right? Of $2 million per ship. That's number 7 of their peace plan. So that 10-point proposal is being used as the heart of all future negotiations. Let's be honest here. This gives Iran 2 weeks to dig out all of the silos and portals of their ballistic missiles that have been attacked by the United States, to do a full-scale inventory. I have a bad feeling for Donald Trump that this is going to be the beginning of the end. He cannot re-engage and start attacks against Iran simply because Lloyd's of London doesn't open up the insurance and doesn't allow all the tankers to come out. What you might have tomorrow morning is very simple, right? Once the actual stops go out, the Iranians may go on international bridge to bridge, right? Channel 16, and they may say, all vessels transiting the SOH, here are your geographic navigation points that you will navigate to, a channel between Qashem Island, Larak Island. You will check in with us, and then you will go out according to the navigation route that we have. That's what they are set up for, that $2 million route, right? The IRGC multipass toll booth. If that becomes permanent and not just open freedom of navigation, you may have some vessels that just, because there are mariners that have been stranded there for 6 going on 7 weeks now, they may just run it, right? I don't think that the Iranians will do anything. But right now, they dictate whether the Strait of Hormuz is open or closed based on Lloyd's of London and other insurance companies believing the IRGC won't attack them and destroy the cargoes that have been sitting on these ships since the beginning of the war.
Can I go back to the original thing you were explaining? Why? So a few minutes ago, just before you joined, literally 2 minutes before you joined, Israel struck the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon. Seconds after that, the Houthis, we get reports, I don't know if they fired it beforehand, but the Houthis fired a missile on Iran. And just now we got a report as you were speaking, just as you came on, Iran fired ballistic missiles on the UAE.
Right.
I'll give you my guess. Israel strike on Lebanon is Israel being Israel. They've done this in every freaking ceasefire.
I do it all the time.
The Houthis firing one missile on Israel, that one missile is useless. They're going to intercept it. But it's more symbolic for the Houthis to say, Iran, we were by your side. Because some people are questioning whether the Houthis were actually, their allegiance was still with Iran or whether they did a deal with Saudi in the back end. Because they didn't go all out. And number
there were
three
no.
is why
Yeah.
Iran struck the UAE is sour taste. The UAE, a lot of reports where the UAE were encouraging the US. I'm not sure if these were true. I don't think they were true, but that could be just the Iran sending a message to the UAE like, we're pissed off at you as the war
Yeah.
wraps up.
I think it's just because it's Tuesday, and that's what was on the ballistic missile launch schedule. And because don't forget, this was not supposed to just suddenly end. This deal appears to have been brokered by Pakistan with the help of the Egyptians and the Turkish, right? And based on your own reporting that you've seen, your really great tweets, the Chinese said, "Hey, might be time to, get this thing into the negotiation sphere." But let's be honest: if the war ends now, right now we're in a pause, a Donald Trump 2-week taco, right? If this is the way it is, and U.S. forces start withdrawing, because Iran's first negotiated point will be, you need to start withdrawing U.S. forces from this region, right? The Iranians are going to be watching what's going on in Kuwait. They're going to be watching what's going on in Saudi Arabia. If more aircraft, ships, and weapon systems start coming into the theater that are not defensive in nature, they're just going to say, are you just preparing 2 weeks for the Marines to arrive, get your airborne forces in place, and then you're going to come out and try to do a knockout punch? So it would be also behoove the Iranians to start digging, right? Get everything that they want out of there so that the Iranians, if this starts again.
More news. Malcolm,
Yeah,
there's more
what
news.
I'll
I'll just kind of feed you as it comes. Not only Israel, so we got a report earlier, Israel was not happy with the deal. Saudi, the UAE, and Bahrain, and Oman are deeply dissatisfied with the deal. Yeah, I don't know why Oman is there. Another mistake. That report just came in. This is not from this is more from an aggregator, not an original source. So take that with a grain of salt. But from a reputable source, they don't have the name, but it's one of the reputable sources that sent it to me in the message. The 2-week ceasefire announced by Trump does include Lebanon, which we heard about that from other sources. Channel 12 and others said Lebanon's included. Ynet said, no, this is Ynet. Ynet, Israeli publication outlet, said Lebanon's included. So these are two pieces of information as well that just came in. Have you seen the terms by Iran, by the way? Because they seem to be setting the terms. Have you read the 10 points?
Well, I've got the 10 points sitting right in front of me. One, a guarantee that Iran will not be attacked again. That literally will end all of Trump's offensive operations against Iran. And here's literally all, other than the decapitation of the old guard who were killed on February 28th and the few officers who were killed in between there. That is not regime change, right? We changed the regime for a younger, faster, more vengeful, and adaptive Iranian arm. I mean, the guys who were killed they're in their 70s and 80s, right? The oldest guy that's probably alive now is my age, right? 60s, who thinks young, right? Looks good. But the guys below me are going to be majors, captains, and colonels who are in their 30s and 40s, who will say, hey, why are we playing on these terms? Why don't we create a better ballistic missile launch strategy? Why don't we get more FPV drones into the hands of our soldiers? Let's do an entire missile inventory and recreate the air defense system there. This is going to work out awesome for the Iranians. They didn't lose this war, right? It looks like they're going to win this war on the 10-point peace plan, because apparently the Pakistanis are saying that is the heart of what we should accept.
Iran just fired missiles at Israel. I think this is Iran's way of saying fuck you to Israel after what Israel did after the 12-day ceasefire. Remember the 12-day war ceasefire?
Yeah.
Israel just struck Iran hard. I think it's what Iran's doing. What a difference. Yeah. With the 12-day ceasefire, a lot of people speculated Iran got his ass handed to him. And now it's like the complete opposite. It's just so...
Yeah, I mean, they spent 47 years preparing for this war. And I'm sorry to say it, none of America's objectives were met other than the destruction of the Iranian Navy and some of its conventional capability, including aircraft and things like that. You know what's going to happen now? The Chinese are going to come in. If this thing becomes permanent, Chinese are going to come in, and that place is going to look like China. Okay, they're going to bring in 5th-generation fighters. They're going to do exchanges of oil. The Chinese are going to rebuild everything. They're going to make money. They're going to get all the free oil that they want, right, in exchange for strengthening Iran's defensive positions. And Iran is going to go right back to producing ballistic missiles. They may have that capability underground, They're going to clear all their missile ports. They're going to do an inventory, and they're going to go, oh, we didn't have 15,000 missiles. We have 19,723. And now we're going to start pre-planning where we're going to strike in if the United States hits us again. Same thing to end Israeli strikes in Lebanon. Okay, check. Lifting all U.S. sanctions on Iran. Well, they've already lifted all the oil sanctions.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Since the sanctions since the Bush administration. That's
the
what
Bush
the
administration.
New York Times is saying.
George Herbert Walker Bush, right? I think we got
I'm assuming so.
Back
it has to be.
When I was a kid.
It has to be because they want all sanctions lifted. Let me see what New York Times said. The news is coming in so quickly. A 10-point proposal includes lifting of all sanctions since the George Bush administration. They didn't say which one. That's according to the New York Times, but I don't have the full report. Just have a summary. But I'm assuming it's senior. Israeli jets continue operating over Western Iran. Yeah,
well, they're going to. And this is going to be the hard part because Trump and Netanyahu are probably going to feel that since they have aerial dominance, that they can stay there. And we go into a situation like Saddam and Iraq's Southern Watch, where we fly over there and declare a no-fly zone or something like that. And the Iranians are going to say, oh, war's still on. Okay, we understand that. Iran will impose a Hormuz fee of $2 million per ship. I read an estimate that could bring in as much as $90 billion a year. And that's petty cash for insurance companies. It's nothing. I was just on one of your spaces and somebody was there, sit rep it might think, was saying, oh, well, what do we get out of this, right? The Iranians are beating us on these terms. We allow them to dominate 20% of the oil that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. If this war hadn't started, none of this would be in place. It was flowing freely on 27 February. Right? So now we're just in a place where now the Iranians have forced you to formalize that geography determines what moves through the SOH. Not you. It's the insurance companies, the Iranians, and geography. And they will determine whether those ships can get out. I'll tell you this much, Mario. A lot of ships will run out when this is open. I think very few ships will enter to load. Because you could get stuck there for, after 2 weeks, you could get stuck there for a very long time.
I'm very emotional about all this. It's been honestly this war because I never thought this war would happen. It's a war, such a stupid war, such an unnecessary war. So we got more information here. So I apologize for the pause for the audience. The negotiations during these 2 weeks do not mean the end of the war unless our conditions are agreed to and our finger remains on the trigger. That's Iran's Supreme National Security Council. Iran seems to be the one less willing. Trump made a post announcing a win. That's the end of it. Iran's like, guys, don't get too excited. We won our terms. They know they won.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just put out a fun tweet called welcome to the off-ramp. This is where we are, guys. Trump, I'm going to be honest with you, straight up, right? I don't care. I always say this. We could be talking about Burundi, South Africa, Burkina Faso, Madagascar, the Reunion Islands. This agreement by Trump, which he was he jumped on it. And that limit and the initial draft was drafted by the White House, as you showed on your Twitter timeline, and was then released by the Prime Minister of Pakistan. So Trump desperately wanted this off-ramp. He needs it. The global economy was within weeks of collapsing. But the Iranians are talking like, okay, they've accepted our terms, and this war will end within the parameters of our 10-point agreement. Although I got to tell you, I think it's brilliant that the IRGC or the Iranians offered to split that $2 million fee with Oman, because I think Oman, will think, wow, great, freedom of navigation. Wait, what? We could earn $40 billion a year by agreeing to this? That's pretty good. I mean, this is what I say about people who, you've been to, you live in the United Arab Emirates. Have you been to the camel contest down in Liwa? Right? No, you got to go to that someday, because these are the world's top camel salesmen going at each other, putting eyelashes on camels and things like that. They know what they're doing with each other. It's when you step in or a foreigner steps in that you come into a game you're not good at, and they will take you for a ride. They will sell you a camel, you'll pay 30 times the price, the camel will walk back home that same night, and they'll change it. Trump, he started this, and now, as Rudyard Kipling saying, here lies the fool who tried to hustle the East.
Can I ask you another question?
Mm,
There's something that worries me here is the wording of it from the beginning. So
mm,
I don't know if you know this. So the news broke, we broke it first by a
right.
source that I spoke to. So 50
Mhm,
minutes before Trump's post, 49 minutes, I get a message from someone that was speaking to the source that was part of the
mhm,
negotiations. The message was very clear and very simple, but very clear. And the wording is what worried me because it just said
mhm,
Trump accepted a 15-day ceasefire. So
mhm,
they said ceasefire because I was like, is that, you mean delay or ceasefire? But
mhm,
they said Trump accepted. They didn't say the war is
mhm.
over. They didn't say Iran accepted. They never replied whether Iran accepted. Then we got reports afterwards from Qatari news publications about, so 50 minutes after our report, Trump confirmed the deal. After that, a few minutes afterwards, Qatar said that we've accepted the 15, Iran's accepted the deal. And
Mhm,
then Iran put out their statement.
mhm.
My worry is that, and based on the rhetoric we're seeing right now, Trump wants this deal. Trump is going to walk away. Trump has already walked away in his mind. He actually did days ago, and I think this is why his rhetoric was escalating. He already made the call to walk away, in my point of view. But what worries me is that what if he made the deal to walk away and he's going to do what I was recommending he does, which is walk away and let everyone else clean the mess? Because I don't think Iran will give him enough ramp. So if he did do that, then who calls the shots? Because it doesn't seem like Iran are willing to budge on anything. And Trump just left them. So Iran's just going to be able to do whatever they want, really.
I think one of the points that is not, and I just mentioned this a moment ago, one of the points that is not on that list of 10 things is the removal of U.S. forces from the Gulf. And you can be
That's a good
pretty
thing, yeah.
sure the Iranians are going to be leaning into everybody and going, y'all need to start thinking about what's going to come next, right? If this breaks down, Trump screws you, Netanyahu screws you. We get Israeli fighters. Suddenly we start digging at Isfahan and a B 2 bomber or B 52 drops 20, 30 JDAMs on top of us. Y'all need to think about what we're going to do to you when that happens, right? And I thought there were implicit threats against energy, bridges, everything. Every time they put one of those things out, it worked. It made everyone worry about it, right? And so, I think that the status quo, we are technically, Iran is in a stronger position than it was on February 27th, much stronger. They have their missiles. They've told the Iranians, they told the Pakistanis, I'm sorry, what their inventory was. Maybe half that inventory is buried, but they can get to it in 2 weeks. They've been digging out ballistic missile portals. So the Yazid missile complex with, all of its ballistic missiles down below, which are being assembled, they could be doing a full inventory. And then at the end of that 2 weeks, they have just as much, if not more capacity to fight as they had before the war. Forget about the Navy, forget about the Army and the Air, or forget about the Air Force and military bases. Their capacity is asymmetric. It's entirely on the IRGC commandos. They're going to do inventory of sea mines. You're going to see 1,000 little small boats come out and drive around like having a grand old time. And we're going to be sitting there thinking, yeah, we're collecting intelligence on them. Yes, you are. But they're also demonstrating what you didn't kill, right? And the people this message will be for, just like that tanker that got hit this morning, 25 kilometers south of Quiche Island, just barely outside of Iranian waters. The Iranians just wanted to make a little example of it. Now, Strait of Hormuz empties out of ships. Very few ships come in, or a few adventuresome ships will come in, try to fill up and get out as quickly as possible. But now Iran's going to be making bank. The IRGC determines who comes in and out now, along with Oman. But I'll tell you one thing. What's going to happen, Mario, when Trump tries to bring the USS Boxer through the SOH in a few days to exercise freedom of navigation? That's a warship. Is that in violation of this agreement? So I didn't see them say they would exercise full freedom of navigation. They said they would allow ships through on the basis of the IRGC, of Iran's subsequent checking of them. They're all going to have to go through the Larak Kishem toll booth now.
Iran just fired missiles at Saudi as well. Is it possible it's because of their decentralized command structure? Some other people might not even know there's a peace deal.
Now they know it's a peace deal. This is the Mosaic project, though. I mean, this is why the Mosaic command structure allows them. These guys have got ballistic missile launch windows. And, shots were fired at the end of 11/11/11, right? Or 18 when World War I ended. Okay, so it's going to take a little while for them to get the full authorization brought down by motorcycle couriers to go, hey, all 31 of you combat commanders, secure from firing until further notice. However, if attacked, you will defend. If there is an incursion through the Gulf by U.S. warships, you will defend. That, of course, means that the Gulf will shut again, right? The SOH will shut again.
What do you think? What do you make of the fact that Israel was not? I'll give a recap to the audience in a bit on everything. There's a lot there, but what do you make of the fact that the audience was unaware? Israel was unaware of the deal. They were caught by surprise. They were not looped in. Even the Gulf had no idea. They were preparing for a worst case scenario. I was speaking to various sources there. Yeah. They're like, Mario, we literally have no freaking crew. And I don't know about the leaders, MBZ, MBS, etc., but the officials didn't.
They don't get a talk in this because this is about Trump and the word deal. Okay, he is fanatically obsessed with that term. He's going to claim he ended this war and that Iran has lost and the United States has won, and he reopened the SOH, which was open freely 41 days ago. But in his psyche, it's him who is winning. I'm sorry, Netanyahu was tied with him at the hip. They knew all about this. They would not stop combat operations in Lebanon if they were not coordinating with the United States, full stop.
So you think maybe officials were not informed, so Iran wouldn't know, because when you're negotiating with the other party, you don't want them to know what you're thinking. So it would have been a very closed skiff-type meeting between Netanyahu, Trump, and the advisors, so it doesn't leak to officials?
Yeah, it'd be secure communications between Washington and Israel. But I'm going to tell you something. The very fact that Trump was throwing out those crazy threats and all these things and the deadline, Iran is a very, very skilled, experienced country here. All right. The Persian Persian civilization has been around for 5,000 years, right? You do not come into the camel souk and think that you're setting the terms for buying camels. These guys understood the very moment the Pakistanis walked in there, begging on hands and knees, telling Trump he would give them a gift of 8 oil tankers that Pakistan would give Trump. Pakistan gets 27% of their oil from the Strait of Hormuz, from either Iran or the Gulf states. They're desperate for that oil. Desperate. Their entire industry, their national welfare is based on that oil. So Pakistan was ready to do the deal, lie to Trump, offer him bribes. And here's the Iranians sitting back watching it like this, right? Having a cup of tea, having a dates, and thinking these people are hardcore desperate. Iran could have extended this war for months, if not a year, and not thought twice about it. It's Trump who is desperate for this deal. Everyone was pressuring him, and this is the economic pressure Iran had been pushing down. That Trump screwed over the Gulf states? Well, we spoke about that earlier today. That's par for the course. He has no real respect for them. He just wants their money. And he just cost them trillions. So I think it'll be fascinating to see how they actually respond to this. And the UAE, by the way, the UAE didn't get their 3 islands back.
Oh, that was, to be honest, no one really, I know it was being discussed. Mm-hmm. Come on. Iran will fight to death to keep those islands, especially knowing they had the upper hand. There is no way. I don't even know if the UAE really considered getting them. I know there were reports. I never confirmed those. And I just didn't find it to be that would destroy, because it will destroy the UAE. Iran's military capabilities. The UAE's trying to build itself, and I'm saying this very objectively. I criticize the UAE on many occasions, but in this case, I think the UAE is trying to build itself as the middleman, the Switzerland of the region. Get Russia, get Ukraine, get Trump, get Xi Jinping, trying to be the peacemaker in the world. That's kind of the image they've been trying to do.
Well, that's done. But there is going to have to be. I think Oman is now taking that mantle, and there has to be a country that has to now replace Qatar. Qatar's out of this game. I mean, they're literally
Mm.
lost trillions on this, and I think that they're wanting to be the middleman, the broker. The Emirates can't be the broker because they're openly hostile
There's
to the
fires. They're
Iranians.
firing
But
everywhere. Kuwait, Bahrain.
yeah,
As we
yeah.
speak, there's sirens everywhere.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. Welcome. Fireworks. You know, but again, there is a battle plan that was in place before this agreement, and the IRGC has the last say. I'm pretty sure by morning, everything will be calm again, and we'll start
Agree.
seeing ships try to run the SOH in a few hours.
There's a statement by the Pakistan Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Oh, okay. So Trump has reposted Iran's foreign minister's statement, Abbas Araghchi.
Hmm.
He posted it, the one that says, on behalf of the Islamic Republic of Iran, I express gratitude and appreciation for my dear brothers, the Prime Minister, blah, blah, in response to the brotherly request of Prime Minister Sharif. In his tweet, and considering the request by U.S. for negotiations based on its 15-point proposal, as well as an announcement by POTUS about acceptance of the general framework of Iran's 10-point proposal as a basis for negotiations, I hereby declare on behalf of the Iran Supreme National Council, if attacks against Iran are halted, our powerful armed forces will also stop. For a period of 2 weeks, safe passage through the strait will be possible via coordination with Iran's armed forces.
Yeah, that's
And
the
Trump
only
reposted
sentence. That's the only sentence Trump saw in that thing. Okay, he didn't
Yeah,
read the rest
exactly.
of it, right? He's just like, whoa, Straits of Hormuz is open. And he's going to declare victory that he got the Strait of Hormuz open after he closed the Strait of Hormuz by attacking Iran. It's absolutely amazing. But the real upswing of it, I'm looking at Jim Sciutto's tweet where it says Iran has achieved a great victory and forced the United States to accept its 10-point plan. Iran is now stronger, and let me be honest, richer because the U.S. has raised sanctions. The U.S. can't impose sanctions on that oil now, right?
Yeah.
Everyone needs that oil to come out. Karg Island's not under U.S. control. The SOH is not controlled by the Marines. The United States doesn't get a dime of that SOH rent, multi-pass money, easy pass money. The toll booth is now going to be open, and Iran is making bank. So they're stronger here. And by saying, oh, they lost their Navy, they lost their Air Force. Well, now they'll be able to buy Chinese fifth generation fighters, brand new radars, proven air defense systems, and $1 billion. They'll go embark on making 1 million FPV drones like they're Ukraine.
The Prime Minister of Pakistan made the following statement. With the greatest humility, I'm pleased to announce that the Islamic Republic of Iran and the US, along with their allies, have agreed, so allies as in Israel, there's no one else involved, and have agreed to an immediate ceasefire everywhere, including Lebanon and elsewhere, effective immediately. Sorry, along with their allies, that includes the Houthis and Hezbollah. I warmly welcome the sagacious gesture and extend deepest gratitude to the leadership of both countries and invite their delegations to Islamabad on Friday 10th to further negotiate. So that's in 2 days. To further negotiate 3 days, to further negotiate for a conclusive agreement to settle all disputes. Both parties have displayed remarkable wisdom and understanding and have remained constructive, engaged in furthering the cause of peace and stability. We earnestly hope that the Islamabad talks succeed in achieving. He called it Islamabad talks, taking credit. I remember when Trump tried to be the peacemaker between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and Pakistan and India. Now Pakistan is the peacemaker between Iran and the US. Everyone's trying to take credit for everything. That the Islamabad talks succeeded in achieving sustainable peace and wish to share more good news in the coming days. In the meantime, I would read. So as a statement that some people's like, what if the command structure in Iran, it's actually a good question. What if the command structure in Iran, that mosaic, all these different commanders have directions to destroy the Gulf and their energy infrastructure, and they haven't had word yet, or they don't want to listen to the ceasefire, they don't want to abide by the ceasefire, haven't heard about the ceasefire? I find it unlikely. Iran's communication, it's not back to the Stone Ages. They know. And I think they'll all abide to it. Their command structure is still pretty solid. That's my guess. We're not going to see destruction of the energy Gulf infrastructure.
Yeah.
There's more missiles launched right now to Israel. It's still going on.
Yeah. Well,
how long was it going for? Is that normal?
That motorcycle courier, it's only been an hour. That motorcycle courier from Tehran had better come down with that wax sealed letter to that Mosaic commander. But, they are firing according to schedule. So it'll abate. The question is, will Israel stop flying combat missions over Western Iran? Will the United States right now cease all combat operations in the region? This is entirely, I mean, you never know. Trump could come out tomorrow morning and say, we saw them digging out at Isfahan. We're going to strike them. The minute the first bomb goes, war's back on. Or the next phase of another war is starting. I don't know.
What is the likelihood that this breaks out again this month, Malcolm?
This month, I don't know. I think that really depends on
cluster. But sorry to interrupt you, Malcolm. The missiles it's cluster missiles to Israel.
Yeah, they're always shooting. They're shooting cluster all the time now because they have a much higher probability. The clusters break open in space, so the interceptors can't stop them, right? And these are pretty high explosive, basketball-sized explosives falling, like 80 of them falling all over the place. Every night they're doing this, and they have a much higher probability of impact. So, but I think it really
the fact that they're
depends on
still firing them now. Sorry to interrupt. Just the fact they're still firing them now, because if it's a symbolic missile, I wouldn't expect it to be cluster missile. I know they've been firing it on a daily basis. The warheads, they kind of scatter around, impossible to intercept.
No,
but I thought
they're still in their firing schedule, right? Again, that wax sealed envelope from the Ayatollah has not reached that Mosaic commander. And the word will get around and they will pause it or get confirmation from Tehran that all firing schedules are now in abeyance.
So about the war breaking out this month, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think?
Possibility of war reflashing, very high. And I think if it does, it'll be Israel that does it. They have again, we've been saying this every day, and it's been proven true every time. They have their own agenda here. They are not so much signatories of this agreement as they are under the control of the United States as part of this agreement. And if they say, hey, listen, we see them digging in Isfahan and they're going to get that 450 kilograms of uranium out. Sometimes you guess, your buddy in the car, all right, who has a big mouth and talks mouthy to the cop, can get you in a lot of trouble, right? So we will have to see.
The enriched uranium, do you really think that Iran they'll continue having their right to enrich uranium? Like, what win is Trump getting out of this? He must have something. There must be something.
Yeah. He now cannot be blamed for the absolute collapse of the global economy. That's where we were headed, Mario.
That's a win?
That's the only win he's getting right now. All of his friends have made an enormous amount of money playing insider trading off of the oil market. We saw that, including his sons, right? And now he can say that he's the new peacemaker. He saw the writing on the wall. People explained to him that this was going to be really bad. But the people who really lost were the Gulf states. The Gulf states have lost trillions. Iran can go Iran can go forever, right? But you got to restock Carrefour. You got to restock Sainsbury's at some point for the population to do it. You've got to get those people back and get the projects that you had online. I have a feeling, though, like we talked about earlier today, I think the UAE is going to go into an expansion hold. They're going to turn the light switch of money off for about 3 or 4 years. They're going to rebuild things. They're going to start putting more defenses in place. But I think it's going to be a slow haul for UAE and Saudi Arabia. Definitely Qatar. Okay, Qatar lost a lot of capacity with the attacks on Ras Laffan and other places. They want to get that going. And they're going to be the ones front and center telling Trump, don't restart this. Don't restart this. But to be honest, Iran has now come out of this much stronger.
I cannot disagree. How is the Gulf going to look like? What is the possibility of the American bases being gone? What is the relation? You've already talked about it briefly earlier. The relation with China. How will China get into this? Because you said they're going to, making bank on this all, being able to get into the Gulf with that. How big of a gap is the U.S. going to leave in the region, if any?
I think there's going to be a gap. I don't think that they'll come back to Bahrain. I don't think that I think the Qataris will now reevaluate having U.S. Central Command headquarters in their country. It did not defend them right now the Qataris can say, hey, we can now work with the Saudis, the Emiratis on an integrated air defense system, buy more advanced systems from South Korea. South Korea's air defense system has a much higher level of intercept than the Patriot, right? 97.6% as opposed to 92% on the Patriots. So you're going to see a lot of Asian advanced weapon sales there. They're going to dump all their old Russian equipment. They're going to revamp what works and what doesn't. You're not going to see the Qataris rebuild that $1.2 billion radar that was killed by a $20,000 drone. And you may see the Qataris say, hey, listen, for us to be mediator, we can't have you here. So Udaid, the U.S. may announce that the base in Doha is not as operational as we would need it to be. And they're going to move that base, those forces, to Uvda Air Base in Israel. Mark my words on that one.
Same what is Israel's future? Sorry, what is Israel's future in this? Like, how they have to end the war with Hezbollah. Hezbollah's still there. There was a report that came in yesterday that Israel's surprised by Hezbollah's capabilities. What is it? Well, is this instability going to continue? Like, are we going to have Iran is still a deterrent against Hezbollah, against Israel. That deterrent is not gone. But how's it going to look like? Will Iran get closer to the Gulf nations? Or
no.
what?
No, Iran is the bully with the baseball bat who said, I told you I would kick your ass. Right? You and your friends couldn't do it. Right? And I put in my licks on you, and you guys got a couple of licks on me, but I'm still here. Iran is massive, right? Massive. It still has forces that they didn't even unleash in this war. Masses of anti-ship missiles, all of the high-speed small boats, smashing up of all the infrastructure in the Gulf states. Those oil refineries can be repaired, but they're still under Iran's gun, right? As far as Israel's concerned, right now, they're going to have to figure out what are they doing in that area between the border and the Litani River? Is that greater Israel now? Is that a no personnel zone? Now that the ceasefire started, families are going to want to come back. They displaced almost 1 million civilians. And now it's what happens when Hezbollah, their commando forces, start fighting. Don't forget, Israel felt that they could kill Hezbollah because they killed all those leaders or incapacitated all those leaders with the pagers. But I keep warning you, it's the deputy and the deputy's deputy who are in their 20s and their 30s who are smarter, better, faster, more adaptive. And they're there. They exist as a combat force in Hezbollah. Now they're the old guys, right? So that war is going to be one that we really need to keep a lookout for because that could upend everything.
People are wondering why Iran accepted this deal. There was a report that China is the one that coerced them into it, that it convinced them to accept the deal. And obviously, China has a lot of influence. My response would be like, Iran has a lot of reasons to accept the deal. They got everything they want.
Everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Why wouldn't they? I just want to bring up that 10-point plan again.
Yeah,
because there's a couple of things that we didn't talk. All right. An end to Israel's strikes in Lebanon, so they save Hezbollah. Lifting of all U.S. sanctions on Iran, that's up to negotiation. We've already done it, right? Ending to all regional fighting against Iran's allies. That means stopping against Hezbollah, stopping against the Houthis, all right, and stopping attacks on the Hashid Shaabi in Iraq. That's done. Now everybody can go back to re-inventorying all their drones and missiles, right, for the next round of war. In return, Iran would open the Strait of Hormuz, which they're going to. Iran will pose a fee of $2 million per ship. So now Iran's going to make at least $45 billion a year and split it with Oman, which is number 8. So now Oman gets this big front. I think people would have thought, wow, we should have done this a long time ago. Provide rules for safe passage through Hormuz, which means Iran now controls the traffic separation scheme, which means they're going to have to check in with the IRGC, whether through ship-to-ship radio, and, ships that come in that don't pay the Easy Pass or the Multi-Pass won't be allowed out. And finally, number 10, Iran to use Hormuz fees for reconstruction instead of reparations. So in other words, I'm flipping all the Gulf states off. That money will reconstruct our country, and we're not giving you any of it.
Fucking hell! Anyone that says Iran didn't win
This
this
is
war
a win.
is just
They're
full of shit.
stronger. They're stronger than before this war.
Do
And
you
they've
think
got
they
their
will change
missile
their?
force intact.
Do you think they'll change their foreign policy? Do you think that they'll be looking at this? Mushtaba would be like, you know what, we won this, but I want to
Now that
transform Iran. I want to change my proxy model. I want to improve relations with Israel. Obviously, not instantly. Over the next 10-year period,
Israel?
I don't want to call it chant death. Even Israel in a 10-year period, that's in his mind. He won't mention it publicly.
No.
Relation with the US
No.
to get the sanctions lifted permanently, to make sure nothing happens again.
If I were him, I would stop targeting Israel unless Israel comes over there. I would just say, hey, listen, that is over there. We are going to redirect all of our forces to be defensive. In other words, if anyone attacks us again, I will, Iran will economically slaughter every one of the Gulf states. Priority one, job one, every day, everywhere, all at once. Right? Now that's blackmail. And now they have the capacity, they have the demonstration that they could hurt everybody. I know Kuwait's got to be breathing easier. We talked about that today. 6 of their remaining water desalination plants are still online. They could have ended them today and created economic catastrophe everywhere. The Emirates, I'm sure, will be able to seduce back a lot of people and a lot more of their money. But I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty sure Trump International Golf Course ain't going through. No one wants to be ballistic missiled for that, or the Trump Hotel in Doha, or the Trump Tower in Riyadh. They are going to say, we lost too much money to go forward with these development deals. No one's going to be handing the United States $5 trillion, which is what they supposedly were going to give the U.S. to do investments in the United States. If they do that, it's simply to Trump-proof themselves from the next war so that they have money that's being generated overseas.
I want to read out the market summary here by Kubaisi Leather. The market's reaction is very telling. Amid the news of 2-week ceasefire, the S&P 500 is now nearing 6,800, trading just 3.5% away from new record high. Gold prices are soaring, $4,900 an ounce. Bitcoin is above $72,000. And oh wow, all right, I'm in crypto, so that's good news. And silver is nearing $77 an ounce. The reality is that the background of the Iran war's headlines and volatility, the AI revolution has been rapidly expanding and inflation expectations have risen. Magnificent Seven, he talks about financial things. He kind of moves on from the war. Is it possible there that this is the person that gave me the source, but I'm sure I'll message them. So this is up there. Has the market moved on? Is this over economically according to them? Because I've always looked at the markets as a forward-looking indicator.
Well, I think it's a forward-looking indicator for the next 2 weeks. I think that they factored in that the ball is really in Iran's court. Trump has accepted what is the status quo of the Gulf now. You notice, I mean, the United States for 47 years, and I risked my life over the phrase freedom of navigation. That's not in there. That's not in there. Iran would open the Strait of Hormuz, impose a $2 million ship, split the fees with Oman, provide rules for safe passage. That is not freedom of navigation. So Iran will probably say, we do not authorize the transit of warships from the United States and Israel through the Strait of Hormuz, which ends freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. But the markets are going to demand it. They need that oil. They need that liquid natural gas. They need that helium. They need all those chemicals. And I think the market in the hunt for red stability are all ready to make their own deals. And they're making bets right now that at least for the next 2 weeks, they can make some money.
How long do you think Iran can and will keep control of the Strait of Hormuz?
At this point, forever. Look, the Strait of Hormuz the Strait of Hormuz is a geography lesson. Anyone that does not understand that the SOH is dominated by Iran, 3,000 to 5,000 foot sheer cliffs that abut the SOH. I show pictures of it every morning. You can go up to Musandam yourself and go camp out and look at Iran across the beach. It is a matter of geography. The entire length of the Iranian coast is 800 nautical miles. That's almost
They're
1,600,
still firing, Malcolm. They're still
kilometers.
firing missiles. They're still firing missiles. I shouldn't be worried. How long do you think before I start
Yeah,
getting worried again? How long?
by tomorrow, a few hours. I think a
A
few
few
hours.
hours.
But hey, that's they announced this on paper. That stuff has not reached the commanders. And don't forget IRGC. What if it's a lie? What if Mujtaba al Khamenei did not authorize this and the word goes out? Well, you'll find that out tomorrow. So, but I think that for now, like you said, the markets are going to dance, right? Cat's away, mice are going to play. Cat is not away. Cat is just sitting on the mantle watching. So understand the hard realities of geography, space, times, physics. Those mariners on those ships are going to be very happy. Ships are going to start weighing anchor. I suspect, though, by the time they reach the traffic separation scheme by sunup, which should be around 10 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know what time it is over there in Istanbul, but by sunup, ships are going to be trying to make that long lines of ships are going to be trying there. And I suspect the IRGC is going to come on channel 16 and say, we are sending you a set of navigation beacon points. You must follow these. And they will go through the Larak Island multipass, easy pass toll booth, right? Maybe they won't collect $2 million for ship, but they will get a voucher from each of them. Otherwise, those ships are subject to attack.
How destructive has this war been to Iran? How long to rebuild?
Yeah, no one knows that. Concrete is easy, right? This isn't Gaza. They didn't Gazify Iran. They hit government buildings. They hit military bases. They hit air bases. That's just a question of bulldozers and concrete. There's a lot of guys in Iran right now, people who have those conveyor belt concrete crushers. They're going to make a lot of money. Guys who can salvage rebar, they're going to make a lot of money. People who can actually bring in dump trucks and trucks that can mix concrete, they're going to make a lot of money. The Iranian government is going to fund a lot of that. But what I think you're going to see the most is there's going to be a lot of talk with the Chinese now. They're going to say, hey, we need real air defense systems, not big ones, small, medium altitude ones. We don't need Patriot level missile systems. They don't work for us. We need 31 independent air defense commands with stuff that can be hidden. You're going to see trucks, loads of trucks that were disguised, be more disguised. They're not going to bring anything out of inventory, but they're going to be taking inventory. They're going to be asking who lived, who died, and who's ready to go back into battle if this ends in 2 weeks.
I've got a lot of questions for you, as you were
Mhm.
speaking just now. And by the way, tomorrow morning, Pete Hegseth will be giving a speech. Tomorrow, 8 a.m.
That guy's going to declare total victory and that we crushed Iran and it was guys with dudes with guns.
All the
And you
PR,
know what? The
anyone
Iranians
in
are going
PR
to.
should listen to this. Should listen to this as a perfect crash course on how to do PR.
It's going to be. No, it's not. And what he's going to do is he's going to say something stupid that the Iranians are going to say, are you threatening us? And it's going to balance on, Trump and Hegseth are going to make statements declaring they won and ended Trump's 10th war. It's going to be laughable.
These are pretty serious questions. How will is it going to be the beginning of a new Middle East? Is the Israeli hegemony in the region to do whatever they want in Gaza and Lebanon, has that come to an end in Syria? Because so far, Iran has been very hesitant in standing in the way of Israel. Israel strikes Hezbollah, Iran stands back. Supports Hezbollah, but they stand back. Iran is avoiding confrontation. But this is a new Iran.
The hard reality is Iran no longer has the ability to get across the Syrian desert and to support Hezbollah. This is on Hezbollah now. Now Iran can probably still get money to them, right? But there's no flying in transports worth of weapon systems and advisors and all that. This will be a new Hezbollah, though. Okay, I'm going to be the one to say it. When I was 24 years, no, not even 24 years old. When was I Lebanon? 1983. Let me see, 2023. That was 46 years ago. When I was in Lebanon and I was 19 years old. Okay, I thought the world was mine. Hezbollah is going to have a boatload of guys between the ages of 17 and 40 who did not get killed or have, weren't at the top of the food chain when Israel decapitated all those guys with the pagers. They've learned that lesson now. Young, fast, adaptive. Where they're going to look for their lessons from? Ukraine, right? You're going to see a generation of FPV drone pilots pop up, and you're going to be seeing videos like you saw with that Merkava the other day. You're not going to have one Merkava tank attack. You're going to see them create their army will transform from the old guys with rockets bombarding central Israel for punishment to the young guys killing Israeli soldiers with drones. That's where you're going to see an asymmetric shift with Hezbollah. And you know what? Young kids with drones are going to be far more effective at killing Israeli army soldiers than shooting stupid rockets into Israel just for fun. Leave the civilians alone. You want to fight the war? Israel was already beaten Lebanon once. Beat. Okay? Almost 20 years they were there. They're going to get beat again. But it will not be on the way that Israel thinks Hezbollah is going to fight again. The kids are going to do it. They're going to beat them in flip-flops too.
This is something I got very wrong. I thought this would be, I don't know if I posted it, but I've definitely believed it. I thought this is the end of Hezbollah. I didn't think Hezbollah will survive this war. And I think Hezbollah is going to come out stronger. I think this is bad for Lebanon. I respect what Hezbollah fight for on behalf of Lebanon. I don't respect when they drag Lebanon into the war as they did now for Iran. And I think Hezbollah would remain. And they'd become more subservient to Iran than they were a few months ago because Iran's stronger than ever.
No, this is, you know what it's like? It's like, Real Madrid or Manchester United losing its billionaire owners, right? And that the club is now run by the junior coaches who never got a chance and the players themselves who were never paid $1 billion like the senior guys. And then suddenly an upstart team fights their way to the top. And you're like, oh, wait, I didn't know you had all that talent. That's what the new Hezbollah. And I think we should actually refer to them as the new Hezbollah. The only thing they have in common with the old guys is that they were Shia Muslim, that they lived in Lebanon. And what they have different is these young kids ain't dead. The old guys are.
I have news. The missiles from Iran struck Jubail industrial city in Saudi again.
Yeah, that's about right. Hey, that's the basic industrial refinery, which they warned. They hit it this morning. Yeah, that's okay. Get your licks in. Last licks. Let the Saudis know who's got that. Who's the guy is still walking around the streets with the baseball bat. He's won.
Trump put out the statement. Hold on. Let me read it now. I don't know why people say the alleged statement put out by CNN World News is fraud. As CNN well knows, the false statement was linked to a fake news site from Nigeria. And of course, immediately CNN picked it up and blared out as a legitimate headline. The official statement by Iran was just released and posted on Truth below. Authorities are looking to determine whether or not a crime was committed on the issuance of the fake CNN World statement. It was sick rogue player. CNN is being ordered to immediately withdraw the statement with full apologies for their usual terrible reporting. Okay, so Iranian
What was the statement?
Yeah. Did we cover this? What's the statement? So I think the 10-point plan Trump is saying is not true.
What?
I don't know.
The 10-point plan is not true? I thought he just tweeted the 10-point plan, the acceptance of it. I'm looking at Jim Shooter.
No, he retweeted foreign minister saying the war's ended and we're going to stop the attacks. He hasn't retweeted a 10-point plan for what I understand. Unless he just did now. Let me see. He posted the Truth. Let me see.
It might be this statement about them, according to a statement from Iran's supreme leader. Well, we'll have to see. But whatever it was, what's CNN retraction?
There hasn't been a retraction. Yeah.
No. But he's demanding a retraction. So I want to see what it is that he's claiming.
The official statement by Iran is just released and posted on Truth below. Oh, he's just talking about the foreign minister's statement. So he's saying the 10-point plan by Iran is false. But Iran...
Okay. It'll be true by morning. Okay. No, so...
Why do you think he's walking it back?
Stop the boat. Is he saying that the statement from Iran with all of those things, that their agreement to end is false?
The 10-point plan that me and you were reading, he's saying is false. The 10-point plan that everyone was reading and everyone posted about, that the Supreme Council posted. I think what's happening is there's still negotiations happening. Trump is, and I think Iran may be having a split within the government. There could be some hardliners that don't want this.
I don't think there's a split within the government. If somebody said early on, I thought it was you who said Mujtaba Khamenei himself. I'm looking at the statement on behalf of the Supreme National Security Council of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is from Arachi. And that statement, it says, in response to the brotherly request of PM Sharif in his tweet, considering the request by the U.S. for negotiations, U.S. request by the United States for its negotiations based on its 15-point proposal, as well as the announcement by POTUS, President of the United States, about acceptance of the general framework of Iran's 10-point proposal as a basis for negotiations, I hereby declare on behalf of Iran's Supreme National Council. So that's it. They negotiate the 15-point and the 10-point. I don't see what they're saying is wrong about that. That is the official statement from Arachi himself.
He's saying the 10-point plan that everyone was treating as Iran's the statement by the Supreme National Council is not accurate. It's
the basis of Trump and Pakistan's negotiations is both the 15-pointer and the 10-pointer. So legit, it's valid. But I think Trump wants to eliminate that.
It's a PR war.
Yeah, it's a PR war because he needs to look like this is a victory. And if Iran's 10-point plan starts getting recognized and seen as the primary vehicle of this negotiation, he loses. We were just saying that. So now he's furious. So this thing could be broken by morning.
I have a theory. Missiles are being fired, Malcolm, as we speak. Yeah. They were fired a few minutes ago to Israel. They keep being fired at the Gulf. No one's striking Iran. All strikes on Hezbollah, Iran, the Houthis have stopped. Iran is striking all neighboring countries as well as Israel.
Well, we don't know if U.S. forces have stopped. So
we're not getting reports.
Most likely, we're not getting reports, but most likely we have the ability to turn it off like a light switch.
But what if there is a split within Iran? What if some commanders don't want to end the war? Some hardliners.
Well, the only hardliner that matters is the supreme leader. That guy's a hardliner. They killed his dad. They killed his wife. They killed his kid. And they've maybe even have critically wounded him. So if Arachi is, going out on a limb thinking this is what people would like, they have their own council, right? They have the Council of 88 and whoever survived that. And, the IRGC command itself, you may have killed a lot of the top guys. Remember, those colonels and deputies are now in charge. And if in a few hours they start throwing a barrage at Israel and Saudi, right? And they come out and somebody comes out and says, Mujtaba Khamenei did not agree to any of this. Then we're going to find out that Arachi is a dead man walking because the Israelis will kill him or the IRGC will kill him. But
what happens if there is a split and the hardliners continue striking hard? Do you think Israel and the US would just go all out?
What haven't they done? We've been all out since day one, bro. There's nothing we can do to Iran short of detonating a tactical nuclear weapon that we haven't done. We've used most of our most advanced cruise missiles for war against China on Iran. There is nothing more you can do. You can blow up the power plants. All that will do is punish 93 million people who will now subsequently hate you. But they'll still get dates. They'll still get bread. They'll still get food in. You will not have crushed their will at all.
Another couple of questions as we wrap up. I know it's getting late for you as well, Malcolm. Thank you so much for giving us the time for so long. And then we're going to get Vladimir on the show, who's been covering a lot. You know Vladimir from the space. You've spoken to him there. Been covering this very closely. I want to go back to the questions I was asking you before we got interrupted with the strikes in Tel Aviv right now. Initial reports of direct impacts in Tel Aviv and Beersheba. it just looks, if you look at just that news, it just looks like the war is ongoing on one side. But just the questions though, Malcolm, on the new Middle East, can you continue explaining how it would look like? Hezbollah, we've talked about.
Well,
what happens to Syria? You've hinted about the Gulf, China.
Syria is stabilizing itself, so it's not a player, right? The key question is, what happens if Hezbollah starts fighting within the zone of confrontation? Will Israel take a defensive posture, or will continue Ben-Gvir's very offensive posture, which has led to what, almost 2,000 civilians or more being killed here, right? The Gazification of everything below the Litani River. And I just can't believe that we're fighting at the Litani River again. I literally was 17 when the Israelis went to Litani for the first time. So this is their little buffer zone. Will civilians start filtering back there and the Israelis start doing things? It could go completely out of control with Lebanon. But that doesn't mean that the war with Iran has to start. If Israel decides they're going to keep doing combat strike patrols over Western Iran, the Iranians won't accept that. They will start firing and the ceasefire will break down. I think that the Iranians, though, won't close the Strait of Hormuz again, though. You know why? Because they're making money.
Yeah, 100%.
I would keep that going 100%. But I will tell you right now, the Iranians will not allow U.S. warships back into the Persian Gulf. That would be just one step too far. It would be almost guaranteeing their, why would you allow your enemy to preposition and then strike you secretly in 2 weeks? And they'll just say, we're declaring this. Only Gulf states can have their navies in there. Only Iran will have our little small boats in there. But the United States and Israel cannot come back in. I mean, it could be a new Middle East in that respect. But I think Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and Oman are all just too beaten up for this thing to go again. UAE and Saudi may talk tough, but they too have lost trillions of dollars. So this may become the new status quo. Iran is the strong man in the Persian Gulf now. Well, they always have been, but now it's been exercised. Now we know.
How will Iran look like in 5 years from now?
Well, 5 years. I mean, it'll look exactly like it is now. They're not going to reconstitute their navy. Don't forget, Ukraine sank an entire navy with no ships, right? With those little drone boats. So I think you're going to see Iran massively produce drones. Drones really won this war. Ballistic missiles didn't. Ballistic missiles are designed to chew up your national resource, make you spend hundreds of billions of dollars. And when they get through, like they're getting through, Iran will produce all cluster warheads. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw in 5 years between you, me, and the fence post. If I were Iran, I'd buy nukes. I'd buy them from North Korea. I'd say we want 5.
Holy shit! You think Iran could actually get nukes after this?
Sure. Iran would desperately need nukes after this, and then to make their point, and I've said this before. I detonate one in the Baluchi Desert. Just say, oh, by the way, Trump's bestest buddy, North Korea, gave us these warheads. Now we know how to make them. Thanks. And then we're back to square one. They don't have to dig out their uranium.
What a fucking end to the war. And this is what the model of the US is: the president does something, the consequences of their actions or their decisions will impact future administrations. So the reason we're here, you cover the Ukraine war, you've covered it for a long time. The reason we're in the Ukraine war is not because of what Biden did, obviously not what Trump did. It goes back multiple administration policy over decades even, on both sides. I'm talking about the American side because you got multiple presidents coming in. The same thing in the Middle East. The Middle East state of it right now goes back multiple administrations. So Trump's administration right now will impact multiple future administrations.
Look, I'm going to be honest with you straight up. Okay, I've lived experience for almost 40 years. The Iranians tried to kill me. I've killed Iranians. This is all on Trump. We've known about the consequences of this. We knew precisely what would happen. We gamed this out for 47 years. From the first day the Ayatollah Khomeini landed in Iran, we knew what would happen if there was a war with Iran. And Trump did not seem to give a flying fuck about consequences. My whole career is about determining potential consequences and mitigating them with the use of the best information possible. He doesn't care about information. He doesn't care about intelligence. He went along with Pete Hegseth with that cartoon South Park caricature of we got guns and bombs and dudes. And that's all we got. We had a fireworks festival that killed over maybe as many as 3,000 Iranians, wounded 24,000, killed 14 more than it killed 14 U.S. servicemen, killed hundreds of people around the Gulf and in Israel. And we knew this was going to happen. And guess what? Iran's defensive strategy has now worked. They have not been displaced.
Yeah.
The regime has not been. The regime has actually been upgraded with younger guys who are better, faster, more adaptive, and they're going to let the even younger guys build technologies in everyone's garage now, not in giant factories, that will allow them to fight on a different level in the next 5 years.
It changed warfare forever. You've been covering this more extensively than anyone. Ukraine and now Iran has changed warfare forever.
Well, in Ukraine, I lived it, right? I was in the Ukrainian army. So I saw the rise of the drones to where we are, the hunter killers. The Iranians are going to go, I want those. 19-year-old kids are going to be having FPV tournaments and they're going to be building their own things. And Iran may secretly announce that they're going to build 5 million FPV attack suicide drones for the defense of their beaches in their country. And you're going to see a different country. It'll be looking like the Ukrainian army in 3 or 4 years, ready to beat anyone's ass in the Persian Gulf, including ours. This is what happens when you put the kids in charge.
What's your conclusion from the American military capabilities? What surprised you the most from this war? Anything you learned, good or bad?
Oh, the only thing that really, let me talk about the things that did not surprise me. Our capacity to destroy massive amounts of anything. We're awesome at that, right? So long as we have JDAM packages and can put a GPS grid inside that thing. You saw the limitations of that when it hit that girls' school, right? That's when you don't update your satellite imagery and your AI starts putting in that grid that's off by 300 meters and you kill children. We're sorry about that, but we are good at conventional war. Where we are not good at is unconventional war, asymmetric war. If Iran really unleashed its capabilities, right, like we did something insane, that we tried to land the Marines on Greater Tum, Lesser Tum, or Larak or Qasem Island, that's when this would have started looking like Ukraine, right? You'd get videos on Iranian television of Marines whose faces and name tags you can identify so that their mom watches their sons killed. That's the war we are not good at. And, look, this appears to be, a lot of this appears to be driven on the price of oil. A lot of people made money off of this, and that needs to be investigated. U.S. forces lost people on the basis of arrogance and a disrespect of culture. And when this starts to roll in the next few weeks, let's say this goes past 2-3 weeks, the Iranians get half of their 10-point agreement, the United States will have lost this war. Period. That's how history is going to see it, guys. None of our objectives were met. None of them.
A lot of people are talking about this becoming the beginning of the fall of the empire, including, a lot of Tucker Carlson, I think, talked about it in a monologue yesterday.
Trump did this himself. This is straight up Nero stuff. Yeah, this is straight up Nero stuff. In 1 year, he practically destroyed American democracy and all of its capacity, got rid of all of its allies, all of its friends, embraced all of its enemies to make money. Belarus, North Korea, China, and Russia, we're voting with them at the United Nations. It's a disgrace. I've written 4 books about Trump and his New York Times bestsellers, all top 10 bestsellers about Trump and that really funny relationship he has with Vladimir Putin here. And now Russia's making money hand over fist, right? Trump cut off all aid to Ukraine, we're finding out, a year ago. And then we find out the other subject that I had reported on when I went to Greenland twice in the last year, warning they were going to invade. We find out 2 days ago Trump was serious about that. He wants the end of NATO because they defied him over Greenland. It's not the end of the American empire. The American empire will have, the American democracy experiment will have to be reinvented anew. And we will have to purge America of MAGA, Trumpism, and the inherent racist, white supremacist basis that it's in. Right? And I just find it funny that the Saudis, the Qataris, the Kuwaitis, you all got played by a guy who technically hates you and only loves you because you have dirty amounts of money that he wanted access to. I will tell you right now, Mario, there is not a Trump project in the Middle East that's going to get created. Not one. They're going to say, oh, we're sorry, due to the war, we have to re-engineer. We'll revisit this in 10 years after
The image
President
was
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
Visits. Right.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. As a final question, as we wrap up, just for the audience, what should we look out for in the next few days to determine if this peace deal is permanent or not?
One thing and one thing only, right? Well, that's not true. Two things. One, if these ballistic missile launches keep going, and two, if the IRGC get the new traffic separation scheme working. I suspect that ships that run, right, will have IRGC boats in the SOH shooting over their bow. Here's a real test, Mario. What happens if you get runners, right, squirters we call them, go shooting through, IRGC starts popping rounds at them. What is the U.S. Navy going to do? Sit there and watch it? I mean, somebody's going to have to figure out what the points of that negotiation are if we are allowed to intervene. And if we intervene, that's the restart of the war. Are U.S. forces going to move out of that region? I think we're going to say we're going to stay there. We're going to watch cautiously. We're going to see how this works. But Iran is going to start making money, baby. And so is Oman. And I think that 350 ships will leave the Gulf in the next few days.
Sources tell MES that one of the reasons Iran accepted the 2-week ceasefire is to complete the solemn burial ceremony of Ayatollah Khamenei across the Islamic Republic.
No.
And Abu Dhabi is putting out a fire at the Habsan gas processing facility.
Yeah, they hit Habshan again. Man, 3 times yesterday. They are determined to make sure that pipeline never works again.
Malcolm, it's been we're going to have Vladimir, who you know from the Spaces, coming up now right after you, but it's always your coverage throughout this. The audience loved you. I really enjoyed our conversations, your experience, and your background as well. It's been incredible. So I really appreciate your time, man, throughout the entire week.
All right. It's my pleasure. We'll go to Costa Coffee and talk about this someday.
All right, brother. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.